she didn't tell me, but I think she knew that I was being auditioned for the dog catcher, but I didn't know that. So she's still behind me. She lets go of my shoulders and she gathers my hair from behind like you're going to put it into a ponytail. And she puts it into a ponytail and she lifts it up, so to get it, to just get my hair so I kind of look like I had a haircut, because that's what the character was going to need. It was a haircut. It was 1930s. Nobody had long hair. So so then she lets go of my shoulders and she gathers my ponytail and she says, "Please don't fool around with my actors, please." And she says, no, I'm just trying to get his hair away so you can see what he looks like with a haircut. And he goes, "I'm a director. I have imagination. Please don't touch my actors." I thought, he's so cool, man. He's just totally on my side. I was just totally, blown away by that. And then he says, "How do you do, Larry?" And I said, "Hi, I'm fine." And he said, "Would you like to play the dog catcher?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." Or would you like to play a dog catcher, not the catcher? I said, yeah. He said, "Okay, fine. Thank you very much." That's all. And she led me away, and I thought, wow, that's kind of a great interview I just had, or a great audition, or whatever it was. But then the interesting part was, when I got to the set, as a habit, I always go to the first thing I do is I report to the AD, the assistant director. It's generally a kid or somebody trying to learn you get for very low pay. They're generally young, about 25 or something like that. And so I went to the AD and they just check you in, and they always show you to your dressing room. But no, I wanted to see my costume. That was the first thing. And I always do that. I say, take me to where my costume is. And he said, "Oh, they haven't put it in your dressing room yet. But the costume department is right there." He points me. I go to the costume. I said, "Where's the costume designer?" And this guy comes out, kind of an anal retentive guy, and very, very fussy. And I say, "Oh, what are you here for?" And I go, I'm the dog catcher." And he goes, "Oh, right." And what he hands me is, I don't know if you remember, or starching white shirts, men's dress white shirts, in the old days, they used to starch the collars,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well,
yeah.
I remember my father used to get his shirts, the whole shirt starched. So I remember sometimes I would help him get dressed or something. He would say, because I like peeling open the shirt, because starch, they start the whole shirt, and they fold it flat. So it's all stiff. Everything is stiff. So I just like peeling it open, and then I would hand it to him. I was a little, child, but I remember that. Well, that's what my costume was. It was these tan coveralls that dog catchers wear, mechanics wear. They're total coveralls. It's tan. But it was folded into a square about 12 inches by 12 inches, about, 3 or 4 inches thick. But it was totally washed, cleaned, and starched. So I was with this brick, this square kind of brick. So I'm peeling it open in front of him, and I'm saying, "I can't wear this." And he goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "Well, it's all starched and clean. This takes place in 1930. I'm a dog catcher. What dog catcher starches his uniform and has it spick and span clean? I'm riding around Lower Manhattan, which was like a ghetto back in the 30s. There's dogs all over the place. There's, I have a truck full of dogs in the back. I'm about to pick up Annie's dog. So I can't wear this." And he says, "Well, you have to wear this. That's what I, designed. That's what you're going to wear." And I still, like I say, I had an attitude problem. And I said, "No, I'm not going to wear this. No, this has got to be dirty. No, I'm sorry." I just stood there. So he says, "Well, I think, Mr. Hankin, we're going to have to go see Mr. Houston about this. I go, yeah, let's go. You know, so he didn't know that I thought that John Houston was my buddy because of the audition. So I said, yeah, let's go. So he takes what was, you know, I stopped halfway through unfolding the first sleeve. So he takes it in his hand and he says, okay, and he marches me over to John Houston, again, who was watching the day's rushes. That's mainly what directors do all day. If they're not directing, they're watching rushes. I mean, so he goes, Mr. Houston, could I please talk to you for a second? Now, it had rained the night before, and it was sunny out. We were outside now. But it was drying up, but there was puddles around, not too few. Not too many, but there was puddles around. And we walk up to him, and he's, you know, Mr. Houston, and he goes, oh, yes. And he looks at the guy. He says, hello, you know, John, or whatever the guy's name. And then he looks at me, and he says, oh, hi, Larry, welcome to the set. What seems to be the trouble? And the guy says, this actor here won't wear his costume. And I go, yeah, man. I mean, it's look at it. It starts. I can't wear that. I'm a dog catcher. You know, I'm pleading my case to John Houston. And he says to the costume designer, please give me the costume. So he hands over this board of cloth. That's my costume. And John Houston starts walking away. He gets out of the chair with the costume, with this board, and he starts walking away. And we're like stunned, both of us. Where's he going? And as he's peeling open the costume, he walks over to the biggest puddle he can find, walks into the middle of it with his shoes and everything, and he drops it right in the water, and then he steps on it all over it. He's stomping on it all over it. Then he picks it up out of the water. He shakes it out. He gives it back to the costume designer. He says, dry this out and put it on Mr. Hankin, please. It's like, cool. This is the best guy I've ever met. I mean, you know, that takes temerity and just chutzpah to do that. That's why John Houston, I think, is John Houston. You know, he knows what's happening. You know, talk about control. See, there's a guy who's in control. You know, if you want to be a control freak, John Houston's your man.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you would think that the control freak would have been the costume designer. You know, be squeaky clean and everything. No, he had no control. He didn't know what he was doing. No, John Houston drops the costume in a puddle. That's control. He knows what he needs, what the time and you know what I'm saying. So that was the greatest piece of, I don't know, sort of direction I've ever heard a director give, you know, or yeah. So that he's my, I don't know. John Houston, you can't say anything bad about John Houston to me. Just for that. He's the man, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
like we just heard like one of your favorite stories. Yeah. Because it sounds like, you know, sometimes I ask, like, what is like one of your most memorable, you know what I mean? Like, well,
they all are, because I got to tell you, you know, I'm dyslexic. I have dyslexia. I've had it all my life. You know, you learn to cope with it and stuff like that and work around it and work with it. But basically, it's not that I'm more intelligent or less intelligent or more creative or less intelligent than anybody else. It's just that we dyslexics just think different. Our brains are wired different. When they take scans of our brain to see what's stimulated by what, working or singing or talking or whatever, our brains light up in different areas than normal brains. So it just shows that we shunt things around in different ways. So I mistake a lot of things. Like, for instance, when I did Barry, this Bill Hader series on HBO called Barry is what it's called. I did a shot on that, and that was the only acting role where I actually did research on. I was a Russian hitman. I played on that, and I was there to kill his partner. The backstory was they shipped me over from Poland or Russia or someplace, and to kill actually Barry and his partner, and then they were going to ship me back so that there was no trace of who did it. So that's what I was playing, and I did a lot of research and I did a lot of rehearsing, and I had to have a Russian accent. I practiced that and stuff. Awesome. So I showed up for the show, and now this is really good directors like John Huston, like Woody Allen, like Larry David, many really great directors that I've worked with, Clint Eastwood. They don't direct you. Their role that they say, because I asked them, their role they say is casting. That if you cast the right person, you don't have to give anybody directions. If you did your job of casting, you cast the right person with the right talent to just go, do it, whatever. And that's the art. And the storytelling. You have to have a concept of the arc of your story. But directing an actor is very rare with the really great ones. Okay, so I show up, and the first thing I say is, where's the Russian language person, the Russian coach? They can't find her or him. I don't know. They didn't say it was a male or a female. Okay, so now I'm kind of nervous because I want to check to see if my Russian is right. Nobody's around. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes in and says, "You're up, you're on, let's go." Your part's. I go, "Oh man!" So right away, I'm nervous, and then I start doing, what I had practiced at home and rehearsed. And Bill Hader is directing, and he's not saying anything. And I'm shooting the whole afternoon, and I'm expecting him to say, close-ups, long shots, over the shoulder, just feeding the other guy lines, blah, blah, blah. Not a word. He's not actually giving any direction to anybody. I was just working with the guy I was going to kill. So we're just talking, and then, but he's not giving him any directions either. It's just. So I'm just doing the best I can under the circumstances. I'm wondering about my accent. I'm wondering whether I'm doing it right because it's a serious role, and I've been doing comic roles. So at the end of the shoot, it's okay. So Bill says, "Okay, Larry is released. He's finished for the day. Let's give him a hand." When you finish, they always give you a hand. The crew claps you. "Oh, hey, nice work, nice work." So I leave, and then as I'm, I got dressed and I came back in my street clothes to say goodbye to everybody, especially to Bill. I said, "Hey, can I ask you something?" He goes, "Yeah, what?" I said, "Man, I'm really sorry, but, you didn't give me any direction, and I was so nervous. I just hope you got what you needed, but you weren't saying anything. So I was kind of, did I do okay?" I was really nervous. He says, No. Look, you did fine. You did great. The reason I didn't direct you was you were not doing anything like what we wrote. That's not the part. That's not the way we saw the hitman. That was not what we had in mind when we created the part. I go, "Oh, wow, you should have said something." And he goes, No, I didn't want to say anything because what you were doing was just as good, if not better, than what we wrote. It was working. That was the point. You were helping the story. It wasn't what we wrote, but it was fine. It doesn't matter, you were telling the right story. So that was kind of another clue as to what's going on in directors' minds. Is, again, he cast the right person for the right part. And if you do that, and that's what John Huston had told me. If you cast the right person for the right part, you don't have to direct them. And that John Huston told me that. And then all of a sudden, years later,